Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Studio Utopia session of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. To be more specific,
Oh, wait, sorry. Start when? Yeah, sorry, right.
It's like a rocket launch. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Studio Utopia session of Amsterdam, Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Studio Utopia is a pan-European residency program where scientists take up a residency with an artist. And in today's session, I will moderate a discussion between artists and scientists. My name is Raoul Vreese. I'm a physicist working at the physics department of Vrije Universiteit. And I also try to develop art science. We have a special laboratory for that, where artists and scientists collaborate, work together, bounce ideas off each other, both on the senior and junior level. And from that institute, we organize this residency program. And I like to introduce the participants. To start off with, I'd like to introduce the artist, Christiaan Zwanikken, Dutch artist, renowned artist. He received international recognition. He makes kinetic, mechanical sculptures, sound works, large installations with formative and responsive elements. He uses a variety of media, robotics, biology, microcontrollers, and sound. It's a artistic, technological experiment, you can say, with innovative and inventive aspects that play really a large role. And I invite you to look at our Ars Electronica garden page, where you can see a movie shot of an overview of his work. The scientists that take up a residency with Christiaan are Hoyt. He's a practicing mechanical engineer. He runs a small consulting firm. His offices are in Seattle in the United States and in Amsterdam, Netherlands. He specializes in advanced composite materials, try to increase fuel efficiency of airplanes and energy efficiency of wind turbine blades. Next to this, he is also very well versed in artistic collaboration. He collaborated with artists, architects, and other creatives in various projects, large-scale light and sound installations, aiming to give the viewer a transcendent experience through those installations. The other scientist also present here is Emmanuel Grimaud from the CNRS in Paris, France. He is an anthropologist. He explores the borders of human perception, technology, communication, and measurement. He thinks that in anthropology, experimental science is ignored. He finds that we need to invent other modes of study to develop radical and provocative experimental protocols, and he is also doing that himself. In many cases, crossing already borders between art and science. He co-designed a robotized interface of the god Ganesh. You were allowed to put yourself in place of this god, have a conversation with fellow citizens or with yourself. And his research also often results in films on various subjects. Today, we'd like to discuss the collaboration between art and science. This is clear for many people, definitely many people present here. I'd like to invite you to pose questions. You can do that via the chat in YouTube, and we will address some of them. So please write down questions about the collaboration between arts and science. Of course, to combine the creativity, the curiosity, differences in investigative methods, it is clear that there can be synergy to create a broader, more holistic view of the topic at hand. We can address that, but I'm also curious if you can see any pitfalls or negatives of such collaborations. And especially we are dealing here with sustainable development, sustainability in general. Is it a given that such collaborations will help? Christiaan, maybe you can address this question.
Well, it's a very good question, and so that's why I think this project is very interesting, because it's kind of course, another experiment to bring, those academic fields together. Yes, you always have the usual pitfalls like personal issues or conflicts or religious beliefs or ideologies, but I probably it could be like that the tunnel vision can become a problem in this kind of because the specialists, and especially also in scientists, can lead to kind of tunnel vision. And contrary to the belief that artists are all completely free-minded and open-minded, is of course also not totally true, because working in the art world also forces you sometimes in a bit of tunnel vision, as it's really not. People don't want you to change ideas all the time, and so there's always this tendency to have clear identity from the artist or the artist. So we have to break through also this part of like our tunnel visions and see how we can come to a broader view together. So that's, I think, a very interesting experiment. And I think this project, of course, but just like I said, is also two academic views, but it would also be very interesting to, of course, to break also the academic borders. There are so many people that do interesting stuff and research. I can imagine that you also bring together scientists and farmers and things like this. So I think this is an interesting start to maybe look for this kind of collaboration to tackle the specific problems you're facing, if possible.
Yeah, so you can have, of course, you can have tunnel vision on both sides, and it can even also lead that they will actually enhance each other's tunnel vision, digging a deeper hole. Even you have any comments, Hoyt?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, and I think any speculative journey or collaboration comes with potential pitfalls. In the context of like the UN Sustainable Development Goals or addressing climate change, I think art and science collaboration, clearly, for me, has a lot more potential positive aspects than pitfalls. But yeah, I think that there is a risk that maybe if science starts informing art too much or directing it toward more literal concepts, then you maybe lose some power in the more abstract or bigger picture thinking. Because for me, that's the power of the collaboration, is that the art and the artist can bring complex concepts that maybe science is studying. People are writing journal papers about it. People are presenting it. There's computer models modeling climate change, all of these things. Artists can magnify those messages, right? And by distilling down complex concepts into things that really touch us deeply as humans. But there's also a potential that the science influence could make those concepts more literal, right? And that you take, okay, this is happening, we're going to represent that in art. And maybe on the other hand, if maybe the purpose of science is to produce useful outcomes for humanity, it's possible that art could be distracting in that way, in the sense of like, if concepts become too abstract, then maybe they lose their usefulness in their outcome. Maybe so few people can understand it that it's not likely to change the course of human behavior, which is, in the end of the day, that's what we need. We need radical shifts in our behavior and in the way we live. And like we saw with COVID-19, that is possible if there is a super big sense of urgency that drives us to our core our core being and solidarity with other beings on the planet, whether they're humans, plants, or any other living organism. It's sort of like a fight or flight reaction to that urgency. And so I wouldn't want to get lost from the practical outcome of a collaboration, if that is indeed the goal, right? So those are kind of the two ways I see it possibly influencing.
Emmanuel?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think there are pitfalls, obviously, but here we are an artist, an engineer, and an anthropologist, and so I don't think there is art on one side and science on the other. We have obviously to find the right combination. But I think there are more pitfalls into our cosmologies today to deal with whatever is happening with climate change or whatever enigma we have and that surround us. So I think in a way we are equal as scientists and artists when we face like this kind of problems. And that's what is interesting, is that suddenly I think all disciplines are have to start from scratch in a way to deal with certain problems. And that's what I like in this project. That's like that we will. I mean, that's the way I see it, as a very experimental occasion, which is given to us to rethink our methodologies as scientists and artists, and to share other methodologies. So for me, I think there are more pitfalls in our cosmologies. You know, it's like there are many things we don't know and which have to be dealt with in a very different way today. So it's a good opportunity to rethink a certain number of things.
All right, good. So we set the stage of this collaboration. So in light of what the work of Christiaan, of the theme of this collaboration, also how everybody involved works, I would like to pose the following question. It is the Dutch philosopher Maxim Februari. He states that humans are a species defined by nature and technology. They use technology to control nature, or to shield nature off, and also to enhance nature. So we have more abilities than our biological ability. So we are nature, we are biological, but as we evolved, human society and the way we use technology, we need it more and more. At the same time, technology moves more and more into biology, including our own species, let's say. My question is, how do you see this duality of human nature, Christiaan?
Yeah, it's interesting that, of course, yeah, well, Darwin, it's not only defined we are nature. That's one thing, and then the technology. Well, the interesting thing is if we're talking about this, these ecological problems, the severe collapse of biodiversity now, that maybe there hasn't been enough experimentation and observation of the thing besides technologies, how nature works, and it works completely, without technology, and it works in itself. And this is something that I think has been, of course, it's been studied, but still very little experiment, especially in the situation right now, that you could use these ecological systems to help us. But we have to really look into that more and again, because of course it's easy to plant trees, but it's very hard to create the ecosystem. And so, yeah, it's interesting how you could get this technology and nature maybe also working together in the light of all this, things we're facing.
And you, Emmanuel, do you see this duality between nature and technology as forces that are driving us as a species? Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a duality which has been like historically, it's like started in the 18th century. This kind of duality, and it's still very much there. But I think today we know that, I mean, nature is just a construct, you know, a concept, and there is what we have to understand behind nature is, I mean, under this concept is that there are many things that we don't know, and that's what Christiaan said in a way. That's like we don't exactly know how ecosystems work, etc. And there are many things we don't know. And technology is something which is probably not limited to what the usual definition of technology, because if you look at plants, you look at even the human body is full of techniques, I would say. Anthropologists had a very different way to look at these things, because the question for us is more like where does technology stop, and shall we consider that I don't know, just like walking is a technology, speaking is also another technology. So you know, the limits of what we should consider as technological is very vague in a way. And I like the idea that this project would take us somewhere else, at least to answer that question, whether we really need to technologize certain parts of our life, or de-technologize it, or, you know, and I think it's a very interesting question. So
yeah.
Yeah, Hoyt.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great quote, and I agree with everything that Christiaan and Emmanuel have said, and it does really come down to humans' relationship with nature and humans' relationship with technology, and how we think of them, and whether, you know, whether they're a threat to us or whether they're a part of us, or, you know, I think. And maybe Christiaan can talk about this in a minute, but in the title, the soft technology, right? So we have some kind of technology in ourselves as beings and that kind of thing. But it's that relationship that needs more attention, and like Emmanuel said, starting in the late 1800s or maybe even earlier, the relationship between man and nature. You see this divergence, and a lot has been written and discussed about it, but eventually through the Anthropocene, we end up kind of in this cluttered world of technology and a distancing from nature. And we talk to we think of nature as a resource rather than what indigenous people thought of nature and other species as relatives. And there's a lot in our beings genetically programmed that we share with the rest of nature. And now we're kind of getting it all cluttered with technological artifacts and things that distract us from our connection. And it's that connection that we need at this time to address some of the big, critical, urgent issues in the world. So I think it's a good thing to think about, and it does feel like we're being threatened, at least on the technology side.
Yeah, because that's also how Mr. February continues. So we are defined by these two forces, and if you now look at this day and age, we have this feeling as if these forces are out of our control. That is in nature, it's of course climate change. In technology, it is artificial intelligence, biotechnology, technological incorporations in humans, enhancement of human possibilities. And because we feel that there's no control anymore, this of course gives a lot of worry and stress. So the question is, is there still a way back for control? And that would indeed then really lead to the, a Anthropocene where we keep control and we are now defining our age as the Anthropocene. Or differently, should we actually leave that behind, enter the post-Anthropocene, say our last goodbye? This is of course easy set. The question then is, what will that do to us? So how do we prevent from not becoming crazy? Yeah? Can art and or science help us there? What are your thoughts, Christiaan?
That's a good question.
Those were a lot of questions.
Like if art would bring any comfort, or if you're talking that we are going to this post-Anthropocene, that would be like sheer survival. And survival. And so I don't think we will have much time to enjoy or look at art, or and so only I think history, like always did, if this art helped society or so in any way. Yes, and I saw this very interesting item on TV on the whole the disruption of the food chain now in the world because of COVID-19. Not so much in the West, especially in Africa, and also and so because the farmers couldn't come, they couldn't come together, and so they invented this kind of online technological thing that they're working now with to keep this chain running. So you see that you have to find this technological solutions for very human let's say soft technology. So that's the information between individuals, emotion, all this. Organizational structures between humans. And so maybe we're going this direction, that we get this very technological elements also getting into our soft technologies as humans.
Yeah, it's good you mentioned the soft technologies, because that's I think an interesting aspect of your work and where things are headed. And I'm still getting my head around what it is and what it means. But I think it's good to think in terms of intelligence and what that means in the sense of you have human intelligence, you have thinking, but you have emotions. So then you have emotional intelligence, right? That helps you adapt in different situations to different people. You have artificial intelligence, which is mimicking human intelligence, right? But it seems like where things need to go, maybe in the face of looming dystopian post-Anthropocene times, is more like empathetic intelligence, like some kind of deep-rooted desire to help and empathize with the rest of the biosphere. And so, I guess I look forward to hopefully we can manage this time and we don't just hit this post-Anthropocene wall, but maybe that urgency, that fight or flight is what we need to, it's happening so slowly, it's hard for people to understand it, but that's the kind of thing that may be able to kick us out of our bubble and into a new way of thinking. So it's the threat of a looming dystopian future. So.
Yes, we are looking at this mind map. You can shine some light on it too, Emmanuel. You try to make gods out of humans. Is that a way out?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a way out, but well, in a way, I think it's it's a very interesting moment of crisis, and I think like if everybody is threatened with whatever will happen, I think it's a very good thing to feel threatened, you know, and just to come out of dystopia, and because whatever reaction will unfold from this will be very interesting. I think it's probably one of the most experimental moments in the history of humanity. I mean, it's like, we have to. I think it's our responsibility as artists, as scientists, to envision new possibilities and to transform dystopia, or to transform this apocalyptic feeling into something else. And I was thinking about, like, there's one author I really like. It's a science fiction writer called Olaf Stapledon, who wrote a book which is called The Last and First Man in the 30s. And he imagined the collapse of humanity, and then he invented 18 forms of humanity. And each time, between each form, there is a collapse, like a nuclear war or whatever, a virus or things like that. And it's a totally anti-Darwinian view of the future, because these 18 forms of humanity are totally random, but one of them is just a big brain on legs, on things like that. And one is just like flying, I don't know, flying cats or something like that. And there's no progression, there's no regression. It's just like pure experimental forms that follow each other. And I think it's a very interesting view of the future, much more interesting to work with today than many of the scenarios that we hear, and which are like I think a bit poor, you know. I don't want to be entangled between dystopia and utopia all my life, and I think you know, we have this tendency of, like, we like this very clear images, but probably life is much more experimental and strange in a way. So we should get prepared for the maximum of estrangement, I think, in the future.
Yeah, you see more in you have to adapt to multiple possibilities and not be so much put down by this one possibility that you see on the horizon.
The urgency and the danger and the disruption can be interpreted as an opportunity for new forms of humans or behavior or something. You know, we're not gonna get there with status quo, peaceful progression. It doesn't appear.
No, and yeah, we are here dealing with sustainability. We touched upon nature, technology. We have to see if sustainability for ecosystems, for other organisms, is actually the same sustainability as it is for humans. This is for the next discussion. Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you.